How it feel to be a dad, how it feel to be a man. You provide by any means, and we sticking to the plan. Yeah, I do this for my seed. Come and listen, come and see. Remember, it was just me. Now it's all about me. Lead by example, this for my child. I swear that I got you for life. Went from the court to talking about buckets, now we talking pampers and wipes. I really love this though. Look at you and get inspired. You the fuel to my fire. Come here, let me change your diaper dash.
What it is, man, we are here, back and better than ever. It's your boy GQ.
It's your boy Boog. Welcome back to Diaper Dads Podcast. My brother, what's popping?
Ain't nothing, man. Another day, another blessing, another lesson. We here, man.
Yeah, we here. It's been a lot going on.
How the week been so far?
It's been busy, bro. I'm exhausted as hell. Coming from back home, that shit takes a toll out of me. Because I don't really see all my homies. Like, I really cram that shit in 48 hours, right? So when Monday rolls around, I'm literally just gassed, exhausted. Tuesday, gassed, exhausted. Wednesday, I'm starting to wake up a little bit. But I mean, it was all worth it in the end. You know what I mean? You just gotta suck it up on the back end and figure it all out, you know?
Yeah.
What's going on with you, though?
Ain't nothing, man. Chilling, same old, getting ready for Nova Rose's birthday party next week. And just planning, getting ready for that, man. That's it, man. Just enjoying the summer, enjoying the weather, taking care of myself, taking care of the fam, and that's it.
Yeah,
you know, daily routines, right?
Yeah, I get you, bro. Listen, let me tell you about my 23andMe. For anybody that hasn't done one before, I encourage you to go do that shit. Like, whenever you get a chance to. So,
how much does that joint cost?
I don't know. It was given to me as a gift. Ashley got it to me for Father's Day.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's love.
So I fucked it up.
Love.
So the first one, they sent me one. I fucked it up because there's a step in the process that I didn't complete. So they sent me another one, said my test was invalid. So I basically they just sent me another one for free ski. So I did it. It took me about a month, maybe a little bit less than a month to get my results. Dog, I was shocked like a motherfucker. I've been false flagging my ass off for the last God knows how long. I thought I was one thing and it was completely different. But no, I definitely encourage anyone out there to go do that shit. That shit is it's good knowledge to figure out where you come from and your background and shit like that. But yeah, no, that
this shit's like 200, yo. It's 100 to 200.
Hell, I guess it all depends on. Yeah, that shit's thorough. I believe it. That shit's thorough because I realized I'm damn near a quarter Nigerian. I was like, what? I was thrown the fuck off this 25%. Damn near, yeah. It's like 20 to 25%, some shit like that. I gotta look at the numbers. It's like, yeah, that shit's crazy, right? And I've been told my whole life, like, yeah, you have a little bit of Hispanic in your blood. Bro, that shit was like 2.5%, maybe.
Wow.
And then on top of that, so then it's like, all right, cool. So we know that I'm black and white. So then it goes from, it's like 55% north. Is it northeastern? No, it's northwestern European. So then it kind of gives you like a geographical location, and then it gives you like a breakdown of everything. Bro, I'm like 40% British.
Yo, let me ask you this though, yo. How this is what I'm trying to figure out though. How could that really be? Like, how is the truth behind? And hold on, you about to say I don't know? Then that shit ain't.
No, I'm not. No. I'm not gonna say I don't know, because I'm gonna give it to you directly. I have it directly from here. It gives you your ancestry report. It gives you your gene pool. It gives you everything, basically.
Oh.
So it gives you like
shit, really calculating all of that.
So
shit,
idealistically, like these. So like right now, I'm looking at it. It says 54% Northwestern European. So like if you look on the grid, like on the map. If you click on it, it'll go into like regions of like Sweden, Norway, Finland, shit like that. But then if you go to the next line, it says British and Irish. So there's like if you click on that, because that's like the next one underneath that for me, right? So if I tap that, then it kind of tells you like what areas are you like highly likely from, right? So like when I clicked on it, it says United Kingdom, and then it says the first like geographical location in the United Kingdom, it says Greater London. So I was like, oh, I'm like, bro, I'm outside. So then I started digging deep into this shit, and then I'm like, yo, okay, all right. So that's the white side of the family. So then what happened was I didn't get my grandmother's gene pool. I got my grandfather's gene pool on my mom's side of the family, right?
So how did they do that?
Because I was talking to my mom about it, and she was telling me about his background. So my mom's biological father is no longer with us, but she was telling me like his side of like, which no one really in the family talks about, but she was telling me like she remembers conversations growing up about like where his ancestral like line came from or whatever. And then we started, so I was like, all right, well then where the fuck is this Hispanic shit at? So then I started digging in deeper, and it gives you there's another category called East Asian and indigenous American. So I'm like, all right, so then indigenous American means I'm Native American. But if you look at the graph, it highlights like all the Americas, North America and South America. I'm like, well, that's a big ass fucking area. But then I started thinking like, okay, maybe this is where the Mexican falls in my DNA, right? And and then it gives you, so then it gets interesting. So now I'm like, all right, cool. So now I start figuring out the African. Then it says I'm sub-Saharan African. It says West African, which is 34%, and then it says Nigerian at 20%, 20.4, something like that. So I'm like, damn, how do like niggas would never you would never think about that. Then it talks about me have a little bit of like, and go.
So that on your father's side?
Exactly. So then I have like.
Your father never knew like where they came from. Like
no, we knew who, like my dad's side of the family, like we know who was born into slavery, who was a slave, like we knew that part, but we never know exactly where they came from, which would make sense. And then it starts naming off other shit like 5% Angolian, Congolese, Southeastern African, and then it goes into like a whole bunch of other shit, bro. I was like shocked at like all this information that I found out about myself today, and I've just been like, yo, I've been mind blown since I've opened this shit, because I honestly forgot about it. I was like, oh shit, let me check my results.
It takes like 4 weeks.
It takes like a month. It walks you through the process, but in the mix of everything going on last weekend, and I was like, what the fuck? Let me just check. I forgot. It said it'll be ready by the 11th. And then I was like, oh shit, let me go see the day. And then I looked, and I'm like, all right. In my mind, it's like, okay, cool. It's going to say like African, white, and then Hispanic somewhere. But yo, that shit is the complete like opposite. I recommend anybody to do that shit. They really want to know where they come from, where their line is. It's definitely worth it.
Yeah, I've heard. My cousin had took it one time. But
and then on top of that, not to mean to cut you off, it's just mad interesting. Then it tells you like there's a graph that tells you how far back it goes. So like the British Irish in me goes back to like 3 to 5 generations. So if you like start counting your people and start figuring it out, you can kind of figure out where it lies. And it says like within the last 200 years, like there's been a relative of yours that lived here or lived there. Yeah, bro. But then they have like all extra like other tests and shit you can like pay more for. But I was like, listen, I just want to know where I come from, I guess. You feel me? Like, Ashley's like, why don't you want to know? Because you can learn about like genetic diseases and shit like that, like cancers and shit like that. Like you can. I'm like, nah. I don't want to know my destiny right now. I'm gonna just let this thing play out.
Yeah, not right now. Not right now. It's a little bit early in the game.
Let this shit play out.
That's good, man. That's good. Niggas is starting to know where they from.
For sure. But let's get into it tonight. Everyone's been bugging me about talking about this. And I think it's time for us to do it. We need to talk about the importance of therapy for men and African Americans as well. I say African Americans, not to just like bring the part of it to bring light, but two, that I think that our demographic really needs help, and I think that we don't know how to go seek it and be willing to go seek it. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I think just men in general, though, right?
Yeah.
Because even when we was at the table, you had a Jamaican guy, a black guy, a Nigerian, British guy, and what is
Aaron's Puerto Rican.
Or see, Puerto Rican, 4 different demographics. None never been to therapy except for you. You and probably maybe 2 other people in the whole damn restaurant's probably been to therapy. I can guarantee you that. So I think it's just a man perspective. But since we're black, individuals, it definitely lines up with us pretty well too.
Yeah. I don't even know where to begin with this topic because it's a very hard thing to accept for one, and we're very
start off. Let's tell the people like what triggered it, right? Like start off from the beginning. You know what I mean? Like how did it all become into a reality now, right? Because it starts from something, or a car accident, this, that, and the third, or obviously COVID, or something. Like let's tell the people like where it started.
So for me, it started from it was the pandemic. Like, generally speaking, I'm a mentally tough individual. Like, I know how to take shit on the chin. I know how to keep moving. I know how to speak my mind. You know what I mean? I'm not a timid person. I find myself having a big voice within the community. Like, you know what I mean? As far as, like, when it comes to my day-to-day. But COVID fucked me up. And when I got when I started working remotely, I was all for it. Like, yeah, this shit's solid. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
4 to 6 months go by. I'm like, all right, now the walls are starting to melt. Like, you remember before we even started this podcast, like, this is literally one of the reasons why I started it. I was doing everything from home. I was eating, sleeping, working, raising a family, working out here. Like, everything was done in this one building. And I know it's not the equivalent of actually going to prison, but mentally I felt like I was in prison, right? Like I had no one to talk to because Ashley and the kids were gone all day. So it was just me, myself, and I, and 2 cats that I never see, right? So like I'm just watching TV, getting work done here and there, and I'm conversing with my coworkers and shit, but it's still dealing with stresses of somebody else. You know what I mean? Like dealing with the shit they got to deal with. My customers, they're stressing out because they don't have X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? Like never having like a complete detox moment during my day to where I can just decompress and sit back. So then it's the pandemic carried on, and then it got better actually. Then I started like adapting to like working from home and going about my business, getting stuff done, and being okay with being by myself, because that's something that I've never been able to do in my life. I've always had to have somebody around me. You know what I mean? And then it switched again. After we started the podcast, everything was cool. And then I started getting short and snappy with everybody. Like, even over dumb shit. Like, you can ask me to do something and I would spaz. Because for whatever reason it was. And then I started realizing it was affecting those around me in the house. You know, and the kids didn't really want to be around me. It was getting to Ashley a little bit.
Let me ask you this before you go a little bit deeper. I stopped you right when you were talking about snappy. You were talking about, like, the pandemic. You believe the pandemic has something to do with it?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm 1,000% sure it's a pandemic.
I wanted to ask that, like, what's your thought for individuals that work from home all the time, right? So, like, for example, Obi, he's been working from home for like 6-7 years now, right? And not only you, right? Not only you were doing that, it's millions of people were doing that, including myself. You know what I mean? So I know you talked about just. I want to ask the right question because I want people to kind of like just think. Is to you, introvert are the people that are not really outgoing, right? Or like they don't really like. They're not gonna. Would you consider yourself an introvert a little bit?
I am an extrovert introvert. There's a specific name for it, but essentially, like, I can go into like a social setting and I can make friends, right? I can meet people, I can say what's up to the homies, but there's times during the day where I may not want to speak and I just sit back and just keep everything to myself, right? So the difference between, like, to go back to what you said about Obi's been working from home. Shout out Pregame on the Hill. He's been working from home 6-7 years. Obi's been able to maneuver. He's been able to release from the house, right? Like, okay, work stays at home. I can go here. I can go hang out with my homies. For almost a year and a half, I was working from home. I was doing everything at home. I didn't have nowhere to go. And then on top of that, not to cut you off, but on top of that, I moved to a new state. So I really don't know anybody.
So, and that's what I want. I want you to start getting into those details, right? Because, like, for someone that's just listening, they just think that you're in the house, right? Because, like, for example, if you're at home, you're not in the same situation, right? Sure. If you're at home, right, and you don't have kids, you're not in the same situation. So that's why I'm trying to just give the listeners a little bit of backstory of like what's really going on. Because right now it just says, "Oh, I was in the pandemic. I'm working from home. This, that, and the third." First thing people are gonna say is like, "Yo, why can't you do what Obi do? Like, yo, get out on the move, do this, that, and the third."
So to get deeper in the details, and this is part of the reason why I'm in therapy is for vulnerability reasons rather. I don't like to open up as much. Like you said, I like to take shit on the chin. So it might be to me. I feel like I'm putting myself up, but I feel like I'm putting myself too much on Front Street. But I'm gonna do it for the sake of this episode. So March 22nd, 2020, I moved out of California right when they were shutting California down to move out here. And I literally knew nobody but Ashley's family and then my kids. So I had no external releases around me. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say that your family shouldn't be your external release, but you got to have that guy time. You have to have that. I need to go hang out with a homie. I need to go grab a drink with the bro. I need to go do this. I want to go hoop. I want to go. All that shit was just stopped because it was just for the betterment of my family at the time. Like the vaccine wasn't out for us. We didn't want to get the kids sick. Correct. So I was really just stuck. And my only release point was just going to work every day. So when I left it, because I was working at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. So when I was leaving home, it was easier because I was going to hang around other people, other guys, you know what I mean? I still was working and deal with other people's bullshit, but at the end of the day, I still had 12 hours where I can laugh, joke, do whatever I wanted to, and just take my mind off of the parental pressures, you know what I mean? To be able to provide for your family, to take pressures off of the being the boyfriend, you know what I mean? At the time, like it took all that was released at work. So I was gone 12 hours a day. So when I started working from home, I'm like, yeah, this is the life. Like, you ain't got to tell me shit. I ain't got to punch another clock. I'm chilling. It was cool about 2-3 weeks. And then by like month 4-6, I'm like, all right, this shit's getting kind of old. Now I'm trying to find new places to work, like do my actual work in the house. My desk was sitting in the living room at one point in time, like in our living room kitchen area. So where I could see like everything. I had a big ass window I could look out of, you know what I mean? And then that moved upstairs to the loft. Cool. So that was a new change of scenery. But then I started finding myself working a lot more from the couch and watching TV. And then I would move to like the island, and then I would move to the dinner table. And then I just had after a certain point, I started running out of places to work. You know what I mean? And there was nothing going. And I just felt so stagnant in life. Being creative, that's why I started doing like house projects and shit like that. Shit that I never thought I would ever do. I started doing that and even started the fucking podcast. You know me, I can shoot the shit with the homies. But when I get on camera and I was, our first couple episodes, we just was talking about it this past week and I was fucking shook. You know what I mean? To get to me to this comfortable point where I'm at right now. So there was just a lot of internal factors that I was dealing with, but I mean internal, also mentally, but also within the house that I'm living in. You know what I mean? Working out down here, raising a family here, being a provider. Like it just was all in one place, and you need that break. You need that break and separation. And I know a lot of people aren't fortunate to have that break and separation. You know what I mean? Some people are due to circumstances or whatever, but you got to find that release point. So, back to, me being snappy. So then I started realizing that like, I didn't have to answer to nobody 8 hours a day. Like Ashley and the kids were gone. I was the only person in the house that made my own decisions to do whatever I wanted to. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we want to do this. I'm gonna go do this. And I started being my own best friend. It was really weird because I never knew, I didn't realize how not in tune I was with myself until I started being by myself. Like I always have somebody around me. Every time I go out, I call one of the bros. When I was living at home, I always was hanging out with such and such. I was always doing this. I was always doing that. I was always doing this. But COVID really forced me to be by myself, and I got very uncomfortable with it. You know what I mean?
You never lived by yourself, like in the dorms.
Always I lived by myself, but I was in a suite. So we had 3 rooms. I had no roommate, but everybody else did, and we all lived in the same like it was like an apartment. Yeah, it was a suite. So I was still around people. You know what I mean? And even if I didn't want to hang around and be around them, I would go find somewhere else to go hang out. You know what I mean? If I didn't want to be here, I was over there. I had releases. I didn't have releases like throughout the pandemic. Yeah. So I just realized I started becoming snappy and shit. Like Ashley would ask me little ass tasks, and I used to just spaz for no reason, literally no reason. And then it got to a point where I started to realize I was hurting the people around me, and I was like, nah, bro, I gotta fix this. And I sat on the idea for a while. I was like, therapy, and I was like, nah, bro, you're not about to. My first instinct was like, no, you're not about to do this shit. You're about to figure this shit the fuck out because you've done that your whole life. But then I started
So why though? Why was that?
Because I was just my mental toughness. I wanted to prove it to myself that I could fix this. Sometimes we put ourselves in situations as men where we feel as though we can fix it, but idealistically we can't. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna need help at some point in life. I don't care who you are, the strongest man in the world, you're still gonna need help at some point in life. And my point was the pandemic. The pandemic fucked me up. It fucked me up for a while, and I'm recovering now. Like I'm not saying I'm fully recovered back to who I was in the beginning, but at the end of the day, before the pandemic, but at the end of the day, we're constantly changing as humans. So this is probably just a new me, and I'm kind of just okay with it. You know what I mean? Like I can't just be like, oh, I wish I was this Lawrence where I was my happiest, because at the end of the day, you know what I mean? You grow and you evolve, and you know what I mean? You have kids, you get married, you figure out life. Life's a different aspect. So now you have to find your happiness within that bubble. I think I was too attached to what I was before the pandemic, as far as like within the scope of like being a parent, right? Because we had the kids were alive about 7 months before the pandemic started. So from like the time they were born until the pandemic hit was the Lawrence that I was trying to find the happiness from. Idealistically, that Lawrence he hasn't withered away. He's just growing to the person that I am today. You know what I mean? And I'm a little more wiser. I'm a little more mature. You know what I mean? I'm starting to find myself again. I got to find myself. That's another thing, is that like I lost myself. You know what I mean? I was making everybody else around me happy, but I lost myself. And some people don't understand that. Like,
yeah, because I'm trying to understand it, because you're by yourself for 8 hours.
Yeah, but I've lost myself in the sense that like what makes Lawrence happy? Like, what does Lawrence like to do that makes him happy? You know what I mean? For himself.
So let me ask you this, though. This is a question I want to ask. Do you not already know that? Right? So, like, even for me, like, shit, I know what makes me happy. You know what I mean? I know there wasn't like certain things that you watch or you talk or
after
you
a while,
read
of course there were. After that shit started running out dry. Like after a certain point, I'm like, all right, okay, I'm over this now because I'm stuck. I'm stuck in a position I can't go. I don't have a external point to go to. Like my only points for the first like 8 months of the pandemic, I only knew Ashley's parents' house until this crib was being done, renovated. Then we moved in here, so I knew here. I only knew Walmart, Target, and then the grocery store. That was it. I didn't know anything else about shit. You know what I mean? I'm figuring everything out on a whim. Like I like going to the mall, like little shit like that. That whatever makes Lawrence happy. Basketball. I didn't have basketball was taken from me. You know what I mean? I didn't have that for a while because I was so concerned about catching COVID for the family. Like there were so many uncertainties and things that I couldn't do that I normally would because of COVID. I didn't want to bring that shit back here. So that's what I mean about finding your own happiness. I was happiness in my relationship. I was happy within being a father, being a parent. But what makes Lawrence happy? Like you say all the time, like I don't care what anyone says. My happiness comes first to me, right? And then it goes from there. I didn't have that. I lost that part of me because I was so caught up in the world of trying to protect everybody that I didn't have anything to go to. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
No, it makes sense.
You know what I mean? I started realizing I'm living I'm like, shit, all my friends are stuck on this fucking phone. I FaceTime everybody now. I'm always on the phone now. Always on the phone. Every morning I'm on the phone. Call my mom 7:30. Call the homies. I'll call you. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have anybody I can go hang out with and just be like, yo, what's up? Like a homie down the street. And that's kind of something I had to explain to Ashley. Like, well, Ashley moving back home and being around her friends. Granted, all friends are moms that are here, but it's easy for them to just coordinate a date. Like, hey, all right, in a couple weeks, let's go get some dinner up here. Like, after we got out the pandemic, you know what I mean? Like, she's able to just meet up with her friends. Me, I gotta, yo, Shane, you gonna be home this such and such dates? Word, I'm gonna book a flight. I'm coming home Friday to Sunday. And that's been my life since. And I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? And that's why, like, I'm still kind of like exhausted from this weekend because I don't sleep when I'm.
I don't think you should be okay with it, man. Like I was telling you, you're gonna drain yourself dry. The reason for that is because even though this is your home, you have a new home.
I get that. 1,000%. I get that. And when I say that to say this is that, yeah, I should make, you're right, 1,000%. I'm making friends living here now, you know what I mean? And growing, like moving within the area, the New England area. I get that. But what I'm most comfortable with until I get that solid foundation out here is back home. And Ashley's been amazing with it. She's been telling me, like, you can go home whenever you want. It's an hour flight. It ain't shit. I could book a flight today and be home tomorrow. You know what I mean? It's nothing now. And I'm okay with that. That's why I say I'm okay with it for right now. You know what I mean? Eventually it's going to get to a point where I'm like, all right, I got to start really getting out. But like now, like I'm out golfing, I'm hanging out, I'm making people I work with, colleagues and business partners and shit like that. So now it's became a lot easier. But at that time, like, and this is as of even like almost a year ago. Like this is damn near recent.
Yeah.
Like, our first in-person podcast was like my first trip home. Like when I was able to just go out and go hang out and, you know what I mean, do this and do that. So yeah, I was lost like a motherfucker for a while. And I started realizing around here that like I started snapping at people and just spat. Even my mom noticed it. And my mom does this shit. She's funny as hell. She know when I'm getting irritated because she's like, listen, bro, I'll talk to your ass later. All right. And just hang up the phone. Don't even say bye. Cause I just spaz on her too, just for no reason. I just was so caught up in just I had no one to answer to all day. So why the fuck do I have to answer to you right now? You know what I mean? It's a fucked up way of thinking, but it just was where my mind was at the time. So so now I told Ashley, one day I told Ashley, we had a conversation, sitting on these steps right here. And I was like, listen, I'm gonna go to therapy. I said, I'm gonna do it. Fuck it. You know what I mean? At this point, because I'm tired of living like this. You know what I mean? My kids don't want to be around me. You know, your kids feed off your energy. As parents,
I know that, and I know that should be killing you. That's one thing that kills me.
I'm very sensitive. My kids don't like being around me. So, and then that's when I started realizing, like, all the life lessons that I tell people about parenthood now is I learned through the pandemic, right? Like, granted, my kids are pandemic babies. Like, they basically were raised in the pandemic. But when I tell people, as parents, you control the situation, whether you realize it or not. That's where I learned it from. I realized that, like, I control the situation. How I react to shit and how I think and feel, my kids are going to start thinking and feeling that same way. So then when I was thinking fucking ugly and just not stuck up, but just snapping at everybody, whatever, they started, like, feeling my presence, and it wasn't a good one. Ashley would feel my presence too, and it was a fucked up one. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying I was out here cursing out 24/7, but, like, we were just having, like, these conversations that borderline were my fault. You know what I mean? Like, we was getting these little bicker matches, and it was my fault some of the time. You know what I mean? And I've accepted that now. Then that's why I was like, yo, at that time I was like, yo, let's just go to therapy, bro. Because you gotta fix yourself. You gotta fix yourself.
Seems like you grown though. Keep going, man. Talk about this. Talk about.
No, but I mean,
come on, man.
Yeah.
How was the first day? Like, how was that? And, like, is it a man?
I picked out my therapist. Like, and
what was why did
so
you
I'm gonna tell you what
person?
It was. So my company at the time, and this is like, and for those that don't know, statistic wise, people, like, going to therapists was been at a higher rate because of the pandemic, right? People. Right.
Oh.
Okay. So I didn't go to in person. I didn't do the in person bullshit. I didn't want somebody physically in the room with me when I was telling you.
I gotta be
because I just did. But
man.
this is where my mind was at. Like, now thinking back at it, like, yeah, I would definitely sit in the room and chop it up with somebody and just have somebody sit there and just listen to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So my company sent me. It was funny. After I told Ashley I was going to therapy, I was going to find a therapist. My company sent me this postcard, and this service, counseling service, if you want to call it, because it does, like, medical health and shit like that. It's called Teledoc, and it's online therapy, but you have a therapist in the state you live in. It's just it's virtual. So I was like, all right, it's in the comfort of my own home. This is where I feel comfortable that I could do it this way. So then I started realizing, okay, cool. All right, so I was like, fuck it, let's just make it count. It's just those little steps that mean so much to the process, right? Making it count. Then it came down to finding the therapist. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck. Who the fuck do I want to talk to? You know what I mean? Like, who's going to listen to me? Want to, like, ramble my mouth off? Like, that makes me feel very, like, I feel mad soft. Like, I don't want to do all that. So then I decided to find me a minority therapist that kind of could understand like my living situation, right? Like, I live in New England. I live in a rural area. Like, I'm the darkest person here, and I'm not bullshitting you. There's a Jamaican that lives 2 doors down from me right now. Me and him probably the only 2 black people in the whole fucking town. Granted, I've just recently found out, like, a week ago, yo, there's mad black people here. I don't know where the fuck they be staying at or where the fuck they be traveling from, but they're here.
They be around.
They just don't come outside, and that's what my punk ass does. I stay in the crib. Like, I don't go outside after dark. Like, I don't do nothing. Like, it's funny because, like, you take a person who grew up in, like, a city-like environment and put them in the country. They're not going outside after dark. They're not doing any of that shit. You take somebody from the country, put them in the city. They're not going outside, period, because they don't know what the fuck's going on. But yeah, so I wanted to find somebody who could kind of understand, like, like where, like I said, my living situation. Because at some point I couldn't find my identity in society, like where I fit in the puzzle, right? Like in the grand scheme of things, like at this current time. Like California was easy. California's a melting pot. It's like Colombia. There's bad people everywhere. You just blend in as a big city, you know what I mean? You're good. Here in New Hampshire, you're either Dominican, Puerto Rican, or you're white. And there's no diversity. When I say I don't qualify that as diversity. Like a diverse area, you got white people, black people, Asians, Middle Eastern, you know what I mean? Africans, like true Africans and shit like that. Like it's either one or the other. And it's crazy. It's crazy as shit to see. It's just like being in like around D&E. Just imagine living in D&E and not playing basketball. Like around y'all was in Elkins, right? Yeah, imagine being in Elkins and not playing basketball. You'd be like, what the fuck is going on? Yeah. It was a complete culture shock to me. So that's how I ended up picking my therapist out. So then the first session, I was mad nervous.
Nervous for what though? Because all you really doing is talking to somebody that they don't have no bias against you.
That's a catch-22, is that we go through life a lot of times, we hold back our tongues because of the judgment we'll get behind whatever we're about to say. Therapy is not like that. You can say whatever you want, and they're going to sit there with the same look, and they're going to take the same fucking notes. You know what I mean? Like, that's the difference. That's the scary part, is that we're so used to, like, saying shit, and, like, we're, like, even now, fucking social media. Everyone runs social media, talk about politics and shit like that. All those judgments, people wearing those fucking MAGA hats and shit like that. There's going to be judgments behind that shit. You know what I mean? Therapy, there's nothing. It's just a person that's sitting there listening to what the fuck you got to say. So I think that's what's the scary part about this shit, is that it's the unknown. Like, oh, well, if I say this, are they going to say that? Like, what? Like, how are they going to react to it? Like, this is completely different than that. And
it's against their practice to talk to people about your situations.
I get that. But what I'm saying is, though, like, the reaction of people, like, you say, like, say you say some wild shit, and I just look at you funny. You know what I mean? Or like that.
They don't. No. You just be like, oh, interesting.
Really, they're like, oh, so how does that make you feel? Like, I started asking my own self those questions at some point. You know what I mean? Like, well, you said that was a fucked up situation. Well, how did that make you feel? You know what I mean? That's how I reassess myself real quickly. Obviously, I'm not going to sit there and take 20 minutes to dissect a situation. It may take me a day. You know what I mean? Say there's a fucked up situation going on. I don't know how I feel about it right now, but I'm going to sleep on it and I'll figure it out tomorrow. There is just straight to the point. And I was reluctant at first. And then she started picking up on what I was doing, because I wasn't really, she could tell that I was holding some shit back. Like, I wasn't really giving her the full rundown. And she was like, and she asked me one session, she was like, yo, do you have a problem? Do you think your problem do you think your problem lies with vulnerability? And I was like, yeah, I don't like being vulnerable. Because I had a fucked up situation growing up, where I was just, you know what I mean? I went through a phase in college, and I'm stuttering talking about this shit because it's just it's difficult to bring up, because I don't tell too many people about this shit. But at one point in time in life, I felt like I had to be everybody's friend. Everyone had to like me for who I was, and I was doing whatever I could to please people. You can do whatever you want for people, and a lot of times, sometimes they don't fuck with it.
Niggas don't.
And I had a hard time accepting that. So my way of accepting it was just cut everything. Like, it takes a lot for me now to trust you. I can't just be like, oh yeah, here's, you know what I mean? Like, I couldn't trust. I gotta really know you to trust you. You know what I mean? Like, GQ, I trust. The homie I just met 2 weeks ago or 6 months ago, you know what I mean? We're cool, but I don't know how cool we are. You know what I mean? We gotta put ourselves in that type of situation where I have to earn your trust. So
Always.
I didn't know how to cope with that. So that's why I told her, I told her that situation, and I was like, I just don't, you know what I mean? It takes me forever. It takes me a while to really gain somebody's trust. Like, I'll be cool with you, but I gotta really like fuck with you in order for me to be like, all right. And then that's why like now I have like that wolf pack mentality. Like, if I fuck with you, I fuck with you. Like, I'm going to give you my all. I'm going to break my back for you. Once it goes left, then I might have to just cut you off. Like, I just can't. And it sounds cliche as fuck because we see it all over the internet. Kevin Gates was talking about shit like that, but it's real life to me. Like, I can't, you know, I don't have time for that shit no more.
You gotta protect your energy, man. Like, that shit is
it's so precious.
It's crucial, man. Your energy and your time,
and your happiness. Man. Those are the three things in life that you need to protect with your heart. But yeah, nah. So we started talking about that and vulnerability, just me opening up and how to come off, and you know what I mean. We would talk myself through the process of how to differentiate different communication styles. Yeah, I'm on my GQ shit tonight. I'm literally like because this is something I've never talked about. Like I talked to like my family and shit, but like when it comes to me, and especially with these cameras on, it's just a different story. How to have different communication styles. You know what I mean? Like, not everyone's going to be responsive or receptive to my natural communication style. Like, if I fuck with you, I'm loud. Like, if I get real passionate about something, my voice gets raised. Like, some people can't, and then some people can't. They can't take that. You know what I mean? Some people are receptive to it. And then on top of that, you take that when I get real high and I get real passionate about some shit, and then you take my size and throw that into consideration, my physical being. It could be. Some people can take that shit as like me being like a fucking terror. So like just learning different ways to communicate, sitting down. I remember you was talking about that shit. Sitting down and just, you know what I mean, taking a step back so people don't have to look up. Like, there's little shit like that you don't really think about that makes a big difference. But then it just kept going. It started opening up. And what's crazy is that I only went to therapy for some months. It wasn't even long. It was two reasons. One, I felt like I really got everything I needed to get out of it. But two, it just was like the internet, everything kept fucking up. And then I think after a point, she just thought I was bullshitting her with wasting her time. So she just stopped responding, which is fine. I'm not against it. But the fact that I was able to go through it and I know how to get back to it, you know what I mean?
Would you ever do it?
Yeah, I think if I ever needed to go back, I would do it in person for sure.
Yeah, I would definitely do it.
But I was at a point where I just felt comfortable being at home, and you know what I mean? Like, this person doesn't know my size. Like, I'm hiding everything behind the camera. Like, here, you kind of, like me talking to you right now, you kind of can get a fair judgment of how I'm a large individual, you know what I mean? Especially with my, you can't. Oh, that's
you can't. Nah, cause I'm trying to tell you, bro. No one would know how big and how tall you are, yo, sitting on the couch. Cause I could sit on the couch. Niggas might say I'm a little bit lean, I'm a little bit skinnier, but 6'1", nigga need some leg.
That's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it ain't easy being this size, you know what I mean? Especially when you see it's like, and then it's crazy because people get like a real judgment of how big I am when we go do it in person. They're like, oh shit. Like, when they see this episode and then they start realizing that niggas is wearing shorts now, legs is like kind of long, like it's different. But I just kind of wanted to mask all that up. So I just really sat back, and it was only for an hour. It was an hour every 2 weeks. And you know it's crazy, and the reason why was financial purposes, and I know that thinking it's expensive as fuck. Therapy is expensive as shit. I ain't gonna lie. Like, I'm not gonna sit there and say.
Massachusetts had a free program for that.
Nah, hell no. It was really that shit was expensive. And I'm not saying that anyone should just go do it. If you can afford it, by all means, it's a resource that you definitely should utilize. For those people who can't really afford it, you know what I mean? I strongly suggest to lean on your friends, your true friends, the ones that you really can trust. Your family's not going to give you a judgment because they're biased to you. Your true friends, they will play devil's advocate, and they will say, well, what about this? Well, how do you think it made this person feel? Like, what if they was going to do X, Y, and Z, and you still are feeling this way? Like, they're going to give you an actual breakdown. I'm not saying just go to anybody that you know, but those that you can really trust that are outside of your family, lean on them. You know what I mean? It'll help you a ton. Like, if I had that friend here, like, I thought the podcast was going to do that for me. And I'd say that it didn't, because it did. You know what I mean? But it just wasn't enough for me personally. Like, I had to go seek some actual professional help and sit down and, like, really have a conversation about it.
And plus, that's not what the podcast is for, man. You know what I mean? Like, I can't necessarily tell you or give you certain advice, especially on situations with your relationship or how you feel, because I technically don't know the whole story behind things, and it just wouldn't be right for me to say shit just because I'm saying shit. You feel me? Like, yeah, no, man, Ashley wrong, this, that, and the third. It's like, yo, bro, it's two sides to every story, man.
And this is why this is why me and you connect very well, is because I consider you my true friend, and why I can really like blood wouldn't make us any closer. You know what I mean? I can come to you and you be like, motherfucker, you're bugging. Like, what about if she were to think this way? You know what I mean? And that's what those people who can't afford therapy should really lean on. You know what I mean? That's why we did this podcast in the beginning, was because I thought it was going to be like a mental release for me, but I needed a little more deeper conversation. And therapists know how to have those trigger point. They have those trigger questions that are going to get you, those provoking questions to get you to ask more. Huh?
How you feel about that?
Yeah.
That's their go-to shit.
How did that make you feel? But what about when they, so if they'd have done this, how would that made you feel? Oh, okay. So that,
yeah.
Do you,
it's really, from what I've been hearing, it's really them getting you to basically express how you felt on so many occasions to make you understand, like, how understand your feelings. You know what I mean? Like, oh, damn, I did feel that way when that nigga did that shit.
It's almost like you was there with me when it happened. Like, that's exactly how this shit be, bro. Because you sit there.
Yeah, like, damn, like, yeah. Yo, you right, yo. Like, I was hurt when she did that. I really was.
Exactly.
But I held
and they'd be like,
up.
okay. They'd be like, oh, yeah. They're gonna be like, oh, that's so you told yourself you took it on the chin. But what would have happened if you would have just told her politely, like, or expressed effectively how you really felt? You were like, I don't know. And then that's where that shit just snowballs. That shit is the craziest experience. It'd be like they've been in those situations with you and you don't even fucking know it. Like, it is, bro. Like I said, I really recommend, if anybody's out there going through anything, we're all dealing with some shit. If you can't figure it out yourself, find help at the end of the day. Like, that's the biggest thing, especially men. We keep fucking getting told to get up. I didn't even do it with my son. Get up. You're fine. Stop crying. Why you whining all the fucking time? Like, yo, it's okay to cry. Break down. Because sometimes, no bullshit. Because like when people see that you can break down and cry and have those moments, they start to look at you like you're human. Like if you're not human if you sit around and walk around like everything you just tough 24/7. Like, no, motherfucker, you're not. Trust me. This life, you're not bulletproof, motherfucker. Like, just, it's okay to break down in front of people, especially those that you love, that you protect. I think it's okay. That's another thing, is I think that the people that you love and protect need to see you break down, so they know it's okay to break down when they hit their boiling point.
Yo, you know what? Only thing about that, man, I don't believe in that, because I feel like some people can take advantage of those situations. because not everyone has good intentions, right? Not every single partner out there, not every single lover out there is really gonna be like, yo, this nigga's at a vulnerable point, man. Like, I don't want to see this, or now that I see it, I can be there. Some people
do. You're right, and that's why I said you gotta be really in tune with yourself to be able to do that in those moments. You know what I mean? I'm not saying, and it's hard. It's easier said than done.
Yeah.
But like for those of like the number one people that should, the number one person in your life that should see you break down is if you have kids, your children for sure. To me, because they need to understand that, like, especially boys, they don't have to be tough 24/7. They don't have to sit around here. You scrape your knee and that shit like it fucking hurt. If you don't know how to cuss, cry. You know what I mean? Like, Bo scraped his knee up the other day, and I still don't know how to react in those moments because I kind of want to tell him to get up, but that's just the way my mind's wired. Like, you're fine. Like, get up. And like, I would like, for instance, I would see Bo fall, and then I would walk to like the other side of the room, and then I would like tell him to come walk towards me, and then he'll get to me, and I'm like, all right, I'll give him like a hug for 2 seconds. I'm like, all right, bro, you fine? You just walked over here. Like, I would do wild shit like that, like shit that you probably shouldn't do. Like, if that shit hurt, motherfucker, that shit hurt. You know what I mean? To him, it hurt. You know what I mean? Those are the people that I think really need to see you at your moments.
The one thing that I say about those situations, or just in general, is they will get accustomed of thinking that everything needs to be attentive to, right?
No, it's not.
That's not life.
That's what I'm dealing with right now. And Bo is
every little thing. So that's why like, yo, you good? You all right, yo? Let me kiss her real quick. Blah, blah, blah. But I understand what people are saying. Yo, when you got a boy, you got this, that, and third. Yes. Sometimes you do got to go over there, this, that, and third. But when you continually assist someone, it's the same thing with the ankle brace, man. They gonna feel like they need the support all the time.
Now back to my son, and he's a God-fearing kid. Like, this motherfucker does everything. He's with the shits, but when he's like, when shit goes left, it is not pretty. Like, he just can't deal with it. And now he's at a point now where he whines over everything. He's like he borderline cries more now than he did when he was an infant. Like, it's like crazy. So now I gotta like rewire him, right? Like,
I want to talk about that on an episode. Like, I want to hear all the things we need to say of like how to break that, because the moms won't let you break that.
Believe it or not, they'll get to a point where they will. And I'm not gonna go too much into detail into it. And mothers probably won't admit it, but there's a point where they do, and I'm seeing it now. I'm living it right now to where I gotta rewire him. Like, I gotta break him of certain shit. Like, okay, bro, get up, you're fine. Like, when I say no, it doesn't mean you go cry about it. Like, what I mean is what I say is what I mean. You know what I mean? But if there's a moment out there where you running full speed, and he's a wiry little boy, and he just be running, and then I see you sliding in the third base on concrete, and I see all this blood on your leg, then we got a problem. Then that's something that I'm like, all right, okay, it's okay, you can have your moment, but I don't know how to, because I'm wired differently to where it's like, fuck it, like, you'll be all right. I don't know how to coach and assist in those situations, right? Like, I don't know how to be like, I'm affectionate, but in those moments where it's like, you got to be tough, I don't show no affection. I think that's another thing that I'm trying to break with my kids, so they see that they can come, because they don't come to me for shit. When shit's wrong, they don't come to me. And it's just because I don't know how to handle it. Like, I just don't. You'll be fine. Like, it's okay. Get up. You'll be fine. And
you don't show that what's the word they be saying? You know, show some baby love. Like,
but the thing is, though, you keep doing that for so long, you get in the predicament that I'm in now, right? Where you get the kids, it's a truly a thing, because now, and it's even worse, it's twofold now, because Cassidy's starting to see it, so she thinks that she could do it, and I'm already cutting the bullshit off of her. And that's why, like, I started realizing, like, you can raise them the same, but their structuring has to be different. You know what I mean? Like, you can have, go ahead.
And I said, not only kids, but grown people do that. Once they see they can take advantage, and not saying that kids know how to take advantage, but I think it is a understanding of that too. But I think even older people, adults, once they see they can always have someone treat them a certain way, just off of them react a certain way or being sad, they'll do it all the time, just because they know they can get that
it's a little
from
bit
that
different
person.
from what you're saying, but think about friends, right? We naturally gravitate towards those that kind of will accept us and feel a certain way, and we naturally go towards those people. But those people that they don't really fuck with us, like, it's uncomfortable as hell for us at times. We don't know who to go to, who to lean on, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's definitely, as adults, we take advantage of shit. I'm not saying you take advantage of your friends or anything like that, but I'm just saying, just in general, just like, you naturally gravitate towards the people that like you for who you are and are okay with how you are. I'm not saying you're taking advantage of them, but they take you for who you are. They understand you. Put you in a room full of people where it's like, all right, motherfucker,
Correct.
like, yeah, you kind of weird. Like, yeah, it's to be hurt. But yeah, nah, it's it definitely. We definitely gonna get into that episode. I'm excited for that one, because it's a real life thing. That shit, you gotta figure out your emotions at some point. You gotta be your own support system at some point in life. But I mean, like I said, for men, we are technically our own support system. I always say this: who does the boss lean on when everyone leans on the boss? Right? That's my favorite joint, but it's a fact, because it's like, all right, if you're the head of the house or you're the man in the house, who do you lean on? That's not family. Nobody. And that's the problem, is that we take so much. We're the brick wall for everybody. You know what I mean? We take the punches. We're a punching bags. We're a brick wall. We're this, we're that. We absorb so much shit that you're going to hit your boiling point at some point. It may be a pandemic. It may be just you've had enough. Maybe you just tired of people bickering and yelling at you about certain shit. Maybe it's work. You know what I mean? You explode on somebody at work and you're like, damn, that was really out of my character. You need to go get help. Go get help. Go get help, bro. Go get help. If I'm a strong advocate for somebody that went through it, but even for just a short amount of time, you really got to be in tune with yourself as an adult. Bro.
That's a whole process within itself, man. And I feel like spending time with yourself, that's where you understand majority of your time. You know what I mean? Like, just being by yourself.
It's a gift and a curse. It's a gift and a curse, because the same way you can be in tune with yourself and think you know yourself, is the same way your mentality can change, and now you're doing shit that you never thought you would. You know what I mean? Like, I'm for everyone that knows me, like, yeah, when I'm passionate about some shit, I'm passionate, but for the most part, I'm chill, laid back, easy going. You know what I mean? We can always have a conversation. When anybody, like, sometimes I like to be quiet, keep it to myself. But then I started realizing, like, when I started snapping at people just because they were asking me, hey, Lawrence, can you take the trash out? Well, blah, blah, I was just blow down on everybody, bro. My mom, Ashley, the kids. Kids don't know what the fuck's going on because they're brand new to this world. Ashley's like, where the hell did this come from? My mom's like, all right, little motherfucker, you need to go sit down somewhere. But that's just because my mom knows me best. You know what I mean? She did 22 years in the military, so she gets I get my passion. Like, when I get passionate about some shit, I get that from her. It's just to show that I really care. That's why something I had to, like, really explain to, like, Ashley. Ashley comes from softer tones. Like, she doesn't need, like, in order for Ashley to get the message, I have to talk to her effectively. And that's something I learned through therapy. I can't just be no, but I really do think that, I can't get high in my voice, because then she starts to think that I'm starting to yell at her, and I'm not yelling at her. You know what I mean? It's just me I'm just passionate. I'm just
passionate.
passionate.
That's my shit. I'm passionate. Shorty.
I used to always tell, like, yo, if I was yelling at you, this whole fucking neighborhood would hear me. And they would. They would. For sure they would. But, you know what I mean? That's why I started realizing I had to dial back my tone a little bit. And then once I started figuring out the effective way to communicate with her, then it started becoming a lot easier around here. You know what I mean? We started to stop having those little nitpicks and shit because I just wasn't getting, you know what I mean? Like I was just letting shit go and we were talking it through. Yeah, man.
I'm glad it worked out, man. I think it's a great conversation to have because obviously, like you said, not everyone is in tune with themselves, right? Everyone's trying to figure it out. Some people can't figure it out. Some people figure it out faster. And then some people figure it out later down the line. But if like Boog said, man, if you guys had the resources and had financially right to get a therapist just to talk through things, man, I definitely think it would help you and benefit you in so many ways that you'd be so surprised in. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, once you know yourself, understand your feelings, understand your emotions, understanding how you like to do this, you do that, you have a better understanding of what you really want in life. Right. And once you get that, man, like you all the bullshit that people talk about, all that shit's gonna be eliminated because I always tell people you're gonna have an aura and a bubble around you that's gonna eliminate all of that. Like you're gonna eliminate all of that crap because you already understand what you need in life. So all that blah blah knick knack, give a dog a bone. Yeah, y'all ain't heard that one before. Y'all ain't heard that in a while. Sure. Y'all ain't heard that one in a while. Yo, all of that's gonna be tuned out, man. So, yo, whatever you guys can do to get in tune with yourself, understand yourself, your emotions, your feelings, do it.
Nah, for sure, bro. Last bit of advice I'll give to you guys is somebody that's been through it. I recommend the first person you tell if you are in a relationship is your partner. Don't tell your family first, tell your partner because your partner doesn't understand. They know you, but they don't. Like your family's just going to be like, okay, you know what I mean? Your partner's going to, if you have your partner there to ride for you and be like, okay, well, I'm going to be there with you through this, that makes this process a lot easier. I told Ashley, she said, okay, and she was there with me through the whole process. You know what I mean? That's something that's, I think that helped it, that made it a little easing up the blow for myself because I felt myself being so weak. I was like, damn, I really let myself break like this. Like, the fuck? Like, the pandemic got me. Like, I never thought it would, but I'm in the house. The walls are melting. The TV don't look the same no more. Fucking the bike don't move the same. I'm sitting there on the couch playing video games. I started drinking a little more than I normally would. Like, it just was like a whole bunch of shit that, like, reoccurrences that was happening throughout the pandemic that I was like, I gotta get a hold on this shit, bro. Because if not, I'm gonna send myself down a dark spiral I don't want to be in. But yeah, definitely reach out to your partner first to let them know because I think that will give you your baseline because they don't have a judgment towards you, but this is something that's it makes you vulnerable and it's going to work out for you because now they're starting to see that, like I said, you're human, you're a man, you know what I mean? You're not a god, you know what I mean? You don't take on everybody's problems. If you're tired about something, you're fucking tired, you know what I mean? If you're not feeling something, say you don't feel that shit. But just say it you know what I mean, in an effective way. Like, this is where you're going to learn all those skills to where you'll be able to say, like, now I'm at a point now in the house, I look at Ashley like, listen, bro, I'm not feeling that. And I'll tell her why. You know what I mean? I'm not going to say I'm not feeling that, but I'll be like, well, that doesn't make, like, you know what I mean? There's just ways to I'll effectively communicate that through the conversation with her versus me just sitting there just like, no, fuck that. We're not doing that. And then we're going to do this. No, that's not healthy at all. But listen, man. We did it. Diaper Dads Podcast, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Instagram, TikTok. Catch us there every week. We'll highlight at you guys soon. We love y'all.